Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Beyond Amazing podcast. I'm your host, Cathy Anna, here with Coach Sylvia Hatchell today. And we have a treat today because we are in beautiful downtown Oxford, North Carolina. And this is my hometown. Coach agreed to come and meet with some folks today. So we've done a meet and greet. We're going to do another one after the podcast. We have a live audience today here with us. Let's hear you guys.
Yeah. What a great crowd. Woo.
It is a great crowd.
Yeah.
Came out to see you and wanting to hear your stories.
Great crowd. No referees. That's good.
I love it. Well, so we have been progressing in our podcast, and today we are going to talk about, we're going to give this two episodes because it's so good. And there's so much that Coach has to talk about. So today's topic is going to be going from last to first, something you know a lot about and are really good at. So why don't you start us off and tell us about what it's like to go from last to first? Because when you first started at Carolina,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. When I think back about it all, it's amazing. The how things changed, because we were not very good. My first year in, we were loaded with seniors, and we had a good year my first year. Well, then they all graduated, and we had no juniors, sophomores.
Just freshmen, right?
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
much.
and we were not very good. And then recruiting wise, the really good players, they don't want to go somewhere where you're not winning.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is, and I, I'm cautious. I'm very cautious about saying this because I don't want to use it as an excuse. But I came in the fall of '86, and then of course the Olympics were in '88. And soon as I got the job, it was announced I would be the head assistant coach for Kay Yao for the Olympics. Well, then right after that, Kay got diagnosed with cancer.
Mhm.
And of course, that year leading into the Olympics, that's huge as far as scouting and all the other teams. And Kay couldn't travel uh, like she needed to. And so I had to put everything at UNC, I don't want to say the back burner, but on hold, because I had to go travel. I had to go all over the place. I mean, I can't tell you how many different countries I went to watch other teams play, to the World Championships, which is the lead into the Olympics. But I went and did all that because, like I said, I mean, how many times do you coach in the Olympics? So
Well, for you, 3.
well, but
At least.
so anyway, like I said, I don't want to use that as an excuse, but I couldn't put the time into UNC because of doing all the Olympic stuff, and I felt like that was the right decision to make too. And Kay needed me at that time because she couldn't go travel and do those things. So anyway, that put us even more behind, and so we were last in the league for 3 years. And let's see, 88, 89, 90, and so it was rough. I'm telling you what, when I think back about it, about how bad it was. And so, but anyway, we did some things to get things turned around and to go from last in the league to a national championship in 3 years.
Mhm.
And so, but I
You
want
can clap for that.
you know,
That's
you
okay. Yeah, that's wonderful.
you think, oh, Coach Hatchell's just telling that story. Well,
She brings receipts.
let me show you this. Here is an article. This is a Durham Herald, and it's the same reporter. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'll hold it up. I don't know if I get it in the camera right, but you can see the title. The headline over here is "Black Cloud in Blue Heaven."
Oh.
Well, the
Oh.
black cloud was me. And you see that I'm talking to my little point guard here on here. This was Emily Johnson. But this article, this is the worst thing anyone has ever written or said about me. Now, if you want to read it, you're welcome to read it. But it was awful. It was just absolutely
I'm
awful.
going to put that right
So,
over here.
all right. And then we win a national championship. We win the ACC. We win the national championship. 3 years later, and this is the same newspaper the same reporter, front page, and what is it? It's got my picture on it, and it says, "Born to coach." Born to coach. The same reporter. Isn't that something? You know,
Sounds about right.
but like I said, no one had ever gone after me like he did and wrote the things. He basically called for, me to be fired
Mhm.
and everything. Uh, and so whatever he wrote the article, he won the national championship and he wrote the article Born a Coach. I actually took him to church with me. I did. And I said, because you know, I'm going to win this. It's just like winning. I'm going to win this. And I did. I took the man and he sat beside me in church. So, but anyway, we talk about what it takes. And it's not just that, we turn the team around, but you can do this in your life because, life's filled with all kinds of challenges,
Mhm.
relationships. I mean, it can be your business, your family, your church, your school, your team. It can be whatever, but you can turn things around. All right. And I got several principles that we used. I don't think we have time to do all of them, but we'll get started with them and all because after we won the national championship, I kept a journal on what we were doing and how the team was improving and what was making a difference and everything like that. So, but these are the qualities and characteristics I think you have to have to develop a championship or a winning mentality,
Mhm.
an environment, an attitude, all that stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those and give some examples as well. And I don't know if I got a timeline on all these,
Well,
but
we're going to do two episodes, so you can do
okay,
half now and half in the second
okay. We may
podcast.
need another episode too.
Okay,
So, but anyway, and then
whatever we need.
and all these fans we have here today, this great crowd. Again, thank you guys for being here.
Mhm.
They may have some questions and things they'd like to ask. So, but anyway, I think the very first thing, and you say, "Oh, Coach Hatchell," people talk about this on say this all the time, but nothing's going to happen without you having the right attitude. I
Amen.
mean, you got to have the right attitude about
Yes.
it, or things are just not going to happen. I tell people all the time. I said, I let nothing and no one control my day. Only my
Mm.
maker and me can control my day. And my attitude is the bottom line. I mean, you got to have the right attitude. And I'm going to read this to you. I know we're not in church, but this is really important because in everything that I do, this is sort of a prayer for today. And it says, "This is the beginning of a new day. God has given us this day to use as we will. We can waste it or we can use it for good. But what we do today is important because we are exchanging a day of our life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever, leaving in its place something that we have traded for it. We want it to be gain and not loss, good and not evil, success and not failure, in order that we shall not regret the price that we paid for it." All right. And so my mother had this taped up beside her bed. And after she passed away, I took it down off her bed, but she had it taped up there. But this is sort of like my philosophy about winning and about the attitude that you have each and every day. But attitude is so important, and I'm going to use a couple examples here. Uh, but with attitude, it says it's the foundation of everything. All right. Uh, Now sometimes we have control over some things, but having control over your attitude is something that you always have. Now, we
Mhm.
had shirts. Putting the right mentality into my players' heads was extremely important. Now, we had shirts that we wore at practice, and I would put quotes on the back of these shirts. One of our shirts, it says, "It all starts with the right attitude."
Mhm.
And when they would see this on the back of the shirts all the time, they didn't stop and read it, but it went into their minds.
Hmm.
All right. It all starts with the right attitude. And then, and about every month or so, we'd change up our practice shirts. I mean, we did wash them and all, but we would change up our shirts and stuff. And we had one that also said, your altitude is determined by your attitude. And your altitude, ever how high you go, is determined by your attitude. All right. So those were a couple of the shirts that we did.
And let me guess, you screen printed those with your own screen printer at home.
Well, I could do that. I didn't.
We talked about this in some previous
Yeah,
podcasts, how she,
yeah.
in the beginning, she made her own T-shirts. So at this point, you weren't having to do that. Is that
No,
right?
no. At this
Okay.
point, I wasn't having
She'd
to
moved
do
up.
that. So,
Okay.
so, but again, the mentality that you have, I really like this. I don't always read things to you, but I like this, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. And it says, attitude. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. Okay, let me say that. It says that it's more important than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a team, a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude that we will embrace for that day. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string that we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me
Mhm.
and 90% how I react to it.
Yeah.
And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. Okay. Now, I asked my players this. I said, lots of times I'll take a glass like this. Everybody sees the glass here. Let me put it on the camera. Now, this glass, I drink a little bit of it. It's not quite down to halfway, but it's getting down there close. But I could ask you, okay, you look at this. Do you see this glass? How half empty or half full? What do you see? Okay, you guys.
Audience.
Okay, all right. Okay, now let me tell you, and I learned this from Kay. Yeah. Okay, I don't see it half empty or half full. I see it running over. Okay, I see it running over. Okay, and that's the kind of attitude that you have to
I
have.
just got chills with that.
That you
I saw the faces in the audience. Everybody, that's very moving.
yeah.
And I can attest that's how she is all the time. Absolutely.
So but that you see it running over. And then, the other thing is, and I love this story, about the fact that in the Bible there's a story about David and Goliath. Little David, he's a little shepherd boy and everything, and here's big Goliath. And so David was going to go to battle with Goliath, and they come down to the valley together and all this, and here's little David, and he gets down there, and here comes big Goliath. It's huge, humongous and everything. And you can imagine, I mean, if you were David, what would you be thinking? What would your attitude be? Most people would say, what am I doing here? I have lost my mind. This guy is going to kill me. That's what most people would put in their heads. But you know what little David's attitude was? Little David said, he's so big. What would the rest of your quote be?
How can I miss?
How? Yes. He would say, he's so big. All right. I can't miss him. I can't miss.
That's good.
Because he's so big. So, you have to have that. That's like making that shot at the end, because when we won the national championship, there was 0.7 of a second on the clock, not even a whole second, and we were down by 2 points, and we threw the ball to Charlotte Smith, and she let it go, and it went in.
And
And
Charlotte was not a three. This is what amazes me. Charlotte was not a 3-point shooter,
no, she
but
wasn't a
you chose
3-point shooter.
her
Yeah,
to shoot that shot because you said in our last podcast we weren't going for the tie, we were going for the win.
right, right. And Charlotte was a winner
Hmm.
all the way. I mean, she was just a winner. Her uncle was David Thompson that played at NC State. Some of y'all are state fans and everything. So the attitude thing is so important. And I love the little story about David and Goliath. He's so big I can't miss. And again with the glass. So that the attitude is extremely important. All right. So I don't know. I was going to move on to the next thing. But if anybody's got a question or we need to talk more about the attitude, I see people all the time now, and I'm just thinking, hey, and sometimes at practice, now I'm going to tell you this, I would not allow my players to have a bad attitude. If I saw somebody on the court, and I wouldn't jump on them at first, right in front of everybody, I'd go over and I'd take them off to the side and I'd say, "What's the problem?" I mean, they may have had an argument with a friend. They may have had something going on at home. They could have flunked a test that day or whatever. You never know what had happened in their day, And if they told me a good reason why they were sort of down and not into things like they needed to be, and I said, sometimes, I might let them sort of be pout a little bit, if it wasn't too awful bad, But if it wasn't a good reason or they were just, hurting the team out there and all this stuff, I would dismiss them from practice.
Wow.
I would tell them to leave. I didn't want them around because it was infectious. All right. And it would spread to everybody else. But I didn't allow the players to have a bad attitude, because you just can't have an attitude like that. It's just not going to work. But I do that in practice. So we didn't have any attitudes. And I would tell them that all the time. They do that. Because you change your attitude, you change your life. And I see people all the time, with sorry attitudes and all that stuff. And I used to, lots of times, I'll go up to a player or in a team meeting, I would say, "All right, we need to do a checkup from the neck up and get rid of any stinking thinking that we may have in our heads." Okay, really. Sometimes I tell myself, and whenever I was sick with leukemia, John Strader is here, and he took care of me. But at times whenever I was feeling really bad and down and everything, I'd sit and look at myself in the mirror and I'd say, "Girl, all right now, do a checkup from the neck up and get rid of any stinking thinking that you may have in your head." All right. So do that, and I've told people that, and it makes a huge difference. Makes a huge difference. So, well, let's move on to the next thing. Is that okay?
I think that'll work. But I just do want to say, I want to point out the leukemia that you had was very rare. You had a 9% survival rate. That's what she was given. And I fully believe that because of that attitude of yours, your faith in Jesus, and the people who helped you get stay physically fit.
Mm-hmm.
I fully believe that's why you beat it. That attitude is it's
Without a
amazing.
doubt.
It's amazing.
Well, I mean, I had AML, acute myeloid leukemia. It is the worst kind, and it's fast. Most people don't survive, especially as you get older. And everything. So, and
How old were you when you were
I
diagnosed?
just turned 60. Just
Okay.
turned 60.
Wow.
And I was in great shape physically and everything. So that helped me a lot. But yeah, I had acute myeloid leukemia, and it's bad stuff. And they've come a long way with it, but it's still bad. Any kind of leukemia is bad, but AML is really bad. You may have probably known somebody. I couldn't find anybody that had survived. In fact, I wrote a book about it because it was so difficult, and I wanted to try to help other people. So, but
And we have some of those here today.
yeah, okay, all right. The next
Do you have a
thing,
question? Do we have a question?
Yep.
Anybody?
Question.
Okay. All right. No, we're all right,
Okay.
let's move on to the
I
next
could preach a couple sermons about attitude, but and use examples, with players and everything like that. But I'm going to move on to another quality of thing that I think that, and you don't see a lot of this nowadays, but I think, especially with the NIL and the transfer portal and all that stuff in
Mhm.
sports, but loyalty,
Mm.
loyalty. All right. Now, and that's to your coach, your employer, employees, back and forth loyalty. You don't see a lot of that because
Mm.
I believe that you get what you want by helping other people get what they want.
Yes.
Okay. I've always believed that, you know. All right. You get what you want by helping other people get what they want. All right. Some people don't care what they or who they step on as
Mhm.
long as they get what they want. But you know what? It's lonely at the top. I mean, I've been
Mm.
there, you know. So you got to treat people with respect. But loyalty is very important. All right. And don't ever forget the people that helped you get where you are. All
Yes.
right. Don't ever forget those people. That's extremely important is loyalty. And I'm going to move on through some of these others so it won't spend so much time. And the next thing is, and this is really big now because not a lot of people have this, and that's discipline. Okay.
Mm.
Now I'm going to tell you, I was hard on my players. I was really hard on them. I mean, we had rules and regulations, and I mean, I didn't waver not 1 ounce. If they were late, if they were 5 seconds late for a class, they were there at 5 o'clock the next morning on the treadmill running.
Ooh.
Okay, because you know the discipline. You, discipline is delayed gratification. All right, all right.
That's
That's
good.
what discipline is. It's delayed gratification. Um, Discipline is something that you do for a person, not to a person. Okay, you
So
do.
building it up
Yes,
within them.
yeah. You but something you do for a person. Okay, not to a person because you're helping them develop a quality and a characteristics that's going to help them throughout their life.
Mm.
So uh, discipline builds pride and commitment. All right, and discipline is love. You showing love when you discipline your players and all. So discipline was a big thing, and I used to say discipline determines your destiny. Okay, discipline
Mm.
does. Uh, and I was hard on them. I mean, really, the way it is now with the transfer portal, I wouldn't have any players. That'd all be transferred out because I was so tough on them and everything. But yes, discipline is a characteristic now that that's you just don't see that much, and people feel like they can do whatever they want to and
Mm.
not have to follow rules and regulations and all that. But discipline was very very important. Um, I think the next quality and characteristic is a commitment to work hard. People want things nowadays, but they don't want to work for it. Okay,
That's
a
good.
commitment to work hard.
Hmm.
That's a really big thing. I told you about our practice shirts. One of our practice shirts on the back of it says, "We work harder and smarter." Okay, we work harder and smarter. And another one of our practice shirts on the back it said, "If it is to be, it's up to me." Okay.
Mm. That's
If
good.
it is to be, it's up to me. You got to make things happen, you know? And then another one of our shirts said, quality, not quantity.
Hmm.
The quality of what you do. Put your signature of perfection on what you do. All right. Your quality, not the quantity, is really, really is so important. Um, and I've got lots of quotes and things about whose job is it and different things like that. The effort, the pride, all this stuff goes into your work ethic. Um, and so when I was at Francis Marion before I came to North Carolina, every high school, I mean, I had a master's degree and two national championships, and every high school coach in Florence County down there made more than I did, but it wasn't about the money that you make it wasn't that. Uh, but to be successful, I had to drive the bus, wash the uniforms, sweep the gym floor. I mean, if it got done, I did it. And so, but hey, and then when I was at UNC, I can remember one summer we had a basketball camp, and the trash can over in the corner was just running over, with trash and stuff. And I think it was over a weekend, and what staff wasn't there working and stuff like that. And so right before the campers were coming into the gym, I was over there taking the trash can out and all that stuff. And some of the coaches came in, and they said, Coach, what are you doing? I said, I'm emptying the trash. And they said, well, they've got people supposed to be doing that. I said, well, they're not here. Nobody's doing it. It needs to be done, so I'm going to empty the trash. And they said, oh, you don't need to be emptying the trash. I said, well, somebody's got to do it.
That's
You
right.
know, I mean, you can't take a position like, well, I'm too good to do that,
Right.
or calling somebody else to do it. You do what you need to do. Oh yeah, I got my bus driver's license. I used to drive the bus to the games and everything.
That wasn't Francis Marion. That wasn't
Yeah, yeah,
Carolina.
no, that was at Francis
They
Marion.
did give her a bus driver at Carolina.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but those are things that you have to do for a commitment to work hard. And then now this next thing is really really important, and that's chemistry. Now, I ain't talking about the chemistry like you take in school. I'm talking about chemistry like with people. Chemistry is like the wind. You can't see it, but you sure can feel it and see the
Mm,
results of it. All right.
that's good.
Chemistry happens when you treat other people the way you want to be treated. Okay. Chemistry happens when you treat other people the way you want to be treated. All right. Now, let me give you a good example here. Let's say that this part of the room, all you guys sitting over here, the table, we make y'all a little committee together, and then all you guys that are sitting over here is pretty much equal with the numbers, and you guys are a group and a committee. All right, and we give you some things that you need to accomplish, things you need to do, and stuff like that. Well, this group right over here, let's say you guys don't particularly care for each other, and you're thinking, oh no, I gotta be on this committee, and I gotta sit here and talk to these people and all that stuff, and you guys over there, then all of a sudden, you're sitting there and you're twiddling your thumbs, and then you're looking out the window over here, like that, and you're just, looking around everywhere, like, and you're looking at your watch, like, when am I going to get out of here? How long is this going to take me to get out of here? And so, you don't want to be there. And everybody, you sense that among the group. You're not giving input. Y'all are really not accomplishing a whole lot. All right. Now, this group over here, let's say they're sitting there and they're talking. They, converse with each other a little bit about, their lives and what's going on and all that stuff. They show a little interest in each other. And then they take their list of things they're supposed to do. And they're all giving input, and taking notes and coming up with some good thoughts and good ideas, you know. And then, one of them says, "Oh, mercy, look, it's getting late," And another one says, "Well, I'm a little bit hungry. I ain't anything to eat. I'm gonna stop down here at the little restaurant and get me a quick bite to eat. Would anybody like to join me, for some coffee or something like that?" And so, one or two of them said, "Well, I'll stop by, and everything." And so, next thing you know, the whole committee is at the restaurant, and they're talking to each other. Now, do they have chemistry? Yes, they
Yes.
do. Yes, they do. And the other group, they didn't like each other. They couldn't wait to get out of there. It's the same thing with a team. You must have chemistry if you're going to win championships. It's not about who takes the shot. It's not about me, or I. It's about the chemistry of the team. And I can tell you example after example after example, because I've had some teams, we were so talented. Oh my lands. I thought we're going to win another national championship. This team was just loaded. But we had so many individuals on there. All they do when the game was over is to look at the stat sheet to see how many points they'd scored,
Mm,
and everything. And so, that and at the very end of the year, we didn't win. I mean, we won a lot of games, but we didn't win a championship, And then I've had some teams that, we were young, and I was like, we got a lot of work to do. We got to develop and everything. And those kids, they just played their hearts out, and it didn't matter who scored as long as we won.
mhm.
And we had a couple of teams that went to the Elite Eight, Final Four, and all, just because they had great chemistry.
Mhm.
And that's so important, whether it's your home, chemistry with your family, your business, your church, the chemistry is so important, and you develop chemistry by helping other people, get what they want, and reach their goals and stuff. So the chemistry is really, really important. Um, and then let's see. Okay, I'm going to stop there with the chemistry part. And you stop me whenever we get to where we need to stop. So, but I was talking about the chemistry and all this, and about the attitude and everything. This piece of paper that I've got right here in my hands. Okay, I was holding this when we won the national championship. All right, we went out of the locker room to play. Last time we was in the locker room, we are going out to play the game. I held this in my hands and I was reading this to the team. All right. The first thing I read to them was it says, it's 1 Corinthians 9:24. It says, in a race, everyone runs, but only one team gets first prize. So I run your race. So run your race to win. To win the contest, you must deny yourself many things that will keep you from doing your best. An athlete goes to all this trouble just to win a blue ribbon or a silver cup or a national championship. But we do it for a heavenly reward that never disappears. So I run straight to the goal with purpose in every step. I fight to win. I'm not just shadow boxing or playing around. Like an athlete, I punish my body, treating it roughly, training it to do what it should and not what it wants to. Otherwise, I fear that after enlisting others for the race, I myself might be declared unfit in order to stand aside. Okay. Now, I read that to the team. And then the very last thing I said to them, I said, all right, to win this championship, all right, you must believe that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got to believe it's going to happen. And then I read this to him. I said, what is believing? Believing is faith. It says, it is. Now remember, we won the championship with 0.7 of a second on the clock, and we were down by 2 points. And it says, it is the confident assurance that something we want is going to happen. It is the certainty that what we hope for is waiting for us, even though we cannot see it up ahead. That's the last. I put that in their heads. And let me tell you, what goes in your mind comes out in your life.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So with 0.7 of a second on the clock and we're down by 2, this was in their minds because this was the last thing I'd said to those kids. All right. You got to believe that it's going to happen. You got to have the confidence that it's going to happen, even though you can't see it. You got to believe it's going to happen. And I think because that was in their minds, that's how we won the national championship. All right.
And do you think, on that note, do you think that's kind of how we are more successful in life, is because the folks that are speaking negativity throughout the day over themselves, just kind of self-bashing and, I'm not good enough, imposter syndrome, all of those things, it can just change with a simple attitude adjustment.
Oh, without a doubt. I stay away from negative people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like negative people. If somebody's negative, I'm not get away from me. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to listen to them. I don't want to hear them. I say, no. No. I don't want to be around. I don't want to hear that.
You walk out of those rooms.
I do. I don't. I'm really picky about people that I'm around because you are like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. You are like them. They have an influence on you. That's like with young people. If you don't have good friends that are positive with you and are good examples and everything, get away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to let go of some friends before because they were not good for me, and they were not positive for me and everything like that. So, but you are like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So surround yourself with good people and positive people and people that are going to lift you up and make you better. And the same thing with you. Speak to people, build them up, talk to them. Say something good to them. The first thing when I meet a person, first thing I notice, all right, color of their eyes, all right, and then whether they're right-handed or left-handed. I watch television and we're watching TV and I'll say, oh, he's left-handed. He said, what? And it'd be somebody on there, that be, all of a sudden they're signing a paper or something. I said, oh, they're left-handed. But first thing I did notice is whether somebody, the color of their eyes, and so look at them, and especially if they got blue eyes. I just said, tell them, you got beautiful blue eyes.
Thank you.
But people, yeah. So that all that kind of stuff, that stuff is really, really important. So I got,
It is.
got
Well,
a couple.
it endears you to people, and that's what I love, because I tell the story. And Lydia's here today. She was our photographer when
Right.
you and I first started
Mhm.
working together. She did a photo shoot
Some
for us.
good pictures for us.
That's right. But you invited me to your home after a phone conversation because you were referred to me by someone that I had worked with before. And it just amazed me that, first of all, she invited me to her home, her private residence. And that told me a lot about you. And then when I got there, I think 3.5 hours later, we finished up our meeting, just because we could sit and have conversations, have that chemistry, and know that we could work together, which was really great. And I think that's just who you are at your core, and that's probably why you've been so successful. So we're getting a little low on time here. I just want to check with the audience. Anybody have any questions that they want to just throw out real quick before we end up and take a little break? Coach is she has come all the way from Chapel Hill today. We are at Wild Hare Books in downtown Oxford, and that's HARE, like the rabbit. They have been gracious hosts to us today to let us have this space and this time so that we can do our podcast.
This is a cute place too. I mean, I walked in like, wow, why didn't I know about this place?
Well, and now you do.
So yeah, it's a cute little place. I mean, really, I was impressed. And
Mhm.
here where we're doing the podcast, I mean, this is a great setup.
It's a wonderful room, and it's we've got the old brick behind us, and just that natural element. It's wonderful. So we're grateful, Nathan and Sarah, for you guys allowing us to be here today. And we're going to wrap up this episode of the podcast. And we're thankful for our audience that has been here, and they got here early so they could meet you and talk to you.
Only one late was me.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. And for those who have come from far and near, we're so grateful for all of you being here. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Again, I'm Cathy Anna, your host. Coach Sylvia Hatchell, Naismith Hall of Famer, best coach ever. We'll end it with that. And stay tuned for the next episode, because we're going to continue to talk about going from last to first and what it takes for you to accomplish that according to Coach Hatchell.